I wish you guys good luck, and you guys can start.
Please come in. I need you guys to put this away. Close the laptop, please. Alright, put the laptop up. Alright, come in. Please come in and have a seat. Good job, Mazer. You don't have to take rotation when you're on the family. You know that, right? Okay. You can only watch it on the YouTube channel. The rest you will like. Okay? Good job. You're gonna have a lesson if you want to. Please have a seat. Put the pencils back in my cup, please. Sit somewhere where you can see the projector. Turn the lights off. Close the door, please. All right, so let's go through the results. Daniel. Okay, Marvin Drew. Ryan.
I drew.
Evan Myers.
I won.
Aiden.
I won.
David Manikov. Nathaniel.
Won.
Harrison, we lost. Mazer, won. Akauri.
I won.
Girsh. Girsh.
I won and lost.
How did you do your first game?
I won.
You lost? Okay. Reva, you lost the first game? Javier,
I lost.
Jose,
I lost.
Landon,
I won.
Adrian,
I won both games.
good job. And Arnav,
I won.
good job, buddy. All right, so we're gonna save all the results, and now it is my honor and pleasure to have again Daniel Girsh, who just became a FIDE master. It's the first international title. It's 3 international titles: FIDE master, international master, and grandmaster.
Daniel Girsh was part of the Pennsbury High School team and part of the chess team, and he was a scholastic state champion. He led the school to state championship level. He inspired many kids from in locally and in Pennsbury High School and Lower Box Scholastic Chess League. Now he's taking his game to a whole new level. He travels internationally in the state. He's just getting ready to play in Chicago this weekend. So congratulations, welcome back, and let's give him a big hand. Tonight he came back to give back, to inspire, to motivate, as always, and he played against Ibrahim. Ibrahim was with the white colors, he played the white pieces, and Daniel played with the black pieces. So I'm going to ask you to tell me the moves, okay?
So before C5, knight F3, knight C6, C3.
Okay,
Knight
so
C6, C3.
what kind of Sicilian is this, guys? Anybody? Nobody?
Scandinavian. No. No.
So if white plays d4, so then it could become the main line of the Sicilian. There's many type of Sicilian, guys. So when he plays, black plays d6, white can play d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6. This is one of the most played line, and black could play with e5 or e6, so the knight or the Scheveningen. Instead of a6, black can play g6, and with bishop e3, bishop g7, you can see the dragon bishop. This is the dragon Sicilian. It's a lot to learn in the Sicilian, and let's see what happened in the game after knight c6.
So he went C3, which transposes to the Alpin, and I didn't want to play theory, so I played E5, which is an interesting sideline.
Let's stop for a second. So what Daniel is saying that after c3, d4, this is called the Alpin, and white will have the dual center. So Daniel said, I don't want to play against this. I don't want to play theory like this, and you choose to play e5 instead of
C3.
c3 and e5. So
The problem with the move E5 is it weakens a lot of the light squares. If you make the arrows from like the A2 G diagonal, right? You can see that it's a very weak diagonal. One day white might play something like D4 and knight G5 and put a lot of pressure on it. So he went bishop C4, which is a very good move. And I guess this is the first question. What would you guys play with black? Because it's very easy to lose on the spot here. It's very easy. I think there's only one more. Very good, exactly. And guys, what happens after knight f6, knight g5, d5? You can tell me what the best move is there. Almost. First we take on d5, knight takes d5, and then knight f7 is pretty much resigns. So, and you guys can see this idea in the, was it fried liver? Fried liver. So I went bishop e7.
So what Daniel is doing is forcing you guys to calculate the moves ahead and to see all these lines ahead, right? And you can also, you should know that also this motive could occur from the fried liver from the Italian.
So because of this, it's better to kind of just avoid it. So I went bishop e7, taking away the square on g5 from the knight. And yes, it's not the standard way to develop, right? You guys are all taught knights out first and your bishops, but in this case, when you're taking away the g5 square, white doesn't have a useful move to attack you. And then the next move, you're going to play knight f6. One interesting thing he could have tried here was queen b3, which I've analyzed, and the only way to defend the f7 pawn here is knight h6. And this might look a little weird, but if he's careless and he castles here, I have the move knight a5, taking the bishop on c4. So this is this is kind of the reason this line is not losing.
So if I play d3 to take this knight, then I have knight a5, and because the pawn is on d7, you don't have queen a4 check.
Exactly.
So now you have to move the queen away, and once you move the queen away, now I don't need, I could take right away, I can deal with this problem also. So black has time here. Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
So instead of that, he went for short castle, which is a very good move. Knight f6, rook e1. It would have been interesting if he played d4 here, just blasting open the center. I'm not so sure what I would have done, but I think this is probably one of the best moves. But okay, he went for rook e1.
So if you're greedy here, I'm tempted to play d5 and rook e1.
Even
after.
d5 and knight on4 stuff, like something like that.
Yes, and now queen d5 is coming.
Bishop f7.
There's a lot of tactics here.
Yeah. I mean, probably I would do something safe like d6 somewhere, but okay, white's definitely slightly better there. Actually, can you check what is the best line? I need to know.
C takes or E takes.
And then
D6 is passive because you gotta go backward. And now
And then
this is an old King's Indian instead of
can I insert CD first?
Well, yeah, you're forced. Otherwise, you're
Like CD D6, something like that. Okay.
so.
Anyways, he went for short castle or rook e1.
Knight f6. Let's make this. What happened?
Yeah, rook e1.
Rook e1.
Castle short. D3. And this is d6. Knight bd2. And this is another important moment. Who can tell me why knight bd2 is an inaccuracy? Why is this not such a good move? Even though it looks very normal, right? He's developing a piece, doing all the things that you're taught to do. But in this case,
I think Magnus will play like a4 here.
yes, absolutely.
This is a typical Magnus move.
Even a3. Even a3, b4 is okay. But
Why, guys? Anybody?
why? Yeah, go ahead.
Blocking off the dark square bishop.
Okay, that's true, but the knight will go to f1 and open that bishop up right away. There's something else here. There's something specific about this position that white needed to play a4 for, and because he didn't play a4, I have another idea. Go ahead.
That's great. Bishop.
Right. How do you take advantage of that? Very good. Yeah, so that's what I played. I played knight a5.
So white was dreaming to keep this bishop. The power of his whole position is based on this bishop. As long as this bishop is on the board and on this diagonal, he has an edge, right? So white rushed here and should have secured this diagonal and had the square for his bishop with a3, like Daniel said, or a4, like I said, right? So I would have played a4 in Magnus style, because if you play knight a5, I play bishop a2, then I can kick your knight out with b4 if I need to or I want to. But white rushed here with knight bd2, and after knight a5.
So now if he goes bishop b3, I'm just very happy to take the bishop, and I have two bishops, and as you guys I'm sure have heard 1,000 times in this class, two bishops is the long-term advantage, and slowly but surely I'm going to open the position and I will be better. So he went bishop b5. Now I could play a6, which is what I did. I can also just ignore the bishop on b5 and say it's a bad piece. I decided that there isn't really anything better to do than play a6, so I played a6, winning a tempo. Whenever you guys are playing the opening and you see moves that win tempos, it's almost like you should be very drawn to them and you should think about them first. And now I played b5, bishop c2, and I played rook e8 here. Another interesting idea was to move the knight back to c6, but I had a thought that maybe one day when white plays the move d4, I want to have the c4 square for my knight available, which is something that I don't normally get in standard Roy Lopez lines. So that's another thing you guys can take away from this game. Whenever you're playing a new position that you don't know, and it looks similar to another position that you do know, try to compare the little differences and try to take advantage of those nuances, because they're probably pretty important. So that's why I played rook e8 here, leaving the knight on a5 temporarily, but I'm going for a long-term plan of playing bishop f8, g6, bishop to g7, so that one day when white does play d4, my pieces are set up very nicely to deal with that. He goes for knight f1.
A lot of times your pieces are not set up in the best way, so you have to rearrange them, right? So that's why rook e8, bishop f8, you rearrange your pieces, and the bishop comes on a long diagonal, and the pawn from g6 will take these really important squares away from the knight.
Also, another big thing about this position is it's a closed position. So because it's a closed position, you have more time to maneuver all your pieces, right? Imagine if the board was wide open and we traded a bunch of pawns. I don't have time to make all these slow moves because I'm going to get checkmate, right? There's some pieces going to hang. So yeah, he went knight f1, g6, h3, all very standard. Bishop g7 or bishop f8. He goes bishop to g5, pinning the knight. Here, it's actually an interesting question if I should play h6 or not. I decided not to. Maybe it was the best move. I just played bishop g7. The reason I didn't want to play h6 is because it makes a long-term weakness on the king side that later on in the game, white might play something like queen d2, and one day he'll play like g4 and use the hook on h6 to open up the king. This is like way, way later, but you know, h6 is a commitment, and I didn't necessarily want to go for it. Yeah, like even here, this looks very scary for black. Like knight g3, king h2, rook g1. It's, you know, I'm just gonna get attacked. Another important point is that when the bishop's on e3 in that line, the pawn on c5 is hanging if I ever try to play d5. Like when my bishop's on g7. So it's not so easy to break out of that bind. So I just decided bishop g7, queen to d2. I played queen c7, just getting out of the pin. Knight e3.
This was interesting position here. So white wants to activate his knight,
yep,
and take and use the d5 square. I'm just
wondering. Yeah. So there's this idea that Bela's referring to. Whenever you see a weak square, especially when you have knights, because knights love outposts, you always want to ask yourself, can I put that knight on that weak square where it can't get kicked out? So here, like I can never play c6 or e6 to kick out the knight on d5. It's a permanent piece. And the only piece right now that's covering the d5 square is the knight on f6. So if I was white, I would think about, I was thinking bishop f6 first, but same idea. So I was thinking about bishop f6, and after bishop takes f6, you can play b4 like Bela's showing. I mean, no, but this is also good. Yeah, it's also good. But one day the point is white will take on f6, take back, knight e3, and knight d5. And we may get some opposite color bishop position if I trade my light square bishop for the knight on d5, which white is definitely going to be slightly better there. But okay, I went queen c7, he went knight e3. But now the difference is he gives me the time to cover the d5 square right before he gets in, so I play bishop e6.
Now we see the difference between the line I show you guys and this line, and we compare the two bishops. Yeah. In the other line that I showed you guys, this bishop was a monster bishop and was an active piece. In this line, this white bishop is a passive piece. So you always want to activate all of your pieces. It was clear that you have to fight for the d5 square. It was clear that this knight belongs to e3. It was clear that the bishop belongs on g5 and take. Every piece has his own squares where it belongs, except for this bishop. So this was the only moment where white could have improved the position of this bishop, because this knight played so well out of the opening, was making this bishop passive, was pushing the bishop back behind the pawns.
Another thing is I always tell my students this is gonna sound weird, but you should almost talk to your pieces. Like ask your pieces, where do you want to go? Where is the bishop on c2 ever gonna go from c2, right? Nowhere. But if I put it on b3 or if I trade it for the bishop on e6, that's a lot better. So that's just like a tiny piece of advice that you guys can use in basically any position you get. So bishop e6. I think he played knight no, he played d4. Yeah, he played d4.
Ibrahim, have you ever think about to play a4?
No.
No? So this, in the Spanish, this is a thematic move, right? And you have to have this option of taking on b5, opening up your rook, and then you can combine it with d4, d5 the way you play. But in the end, you will have black will have a weak pawn on b5, and which one you can attack. You understand, Ibrahim? Yeah. Because this way, black has to watch the a file, black has to watch the d4 break in the center, and the attack the way you played. So you have to basically combine three different plans where you have to shake up black so it doesn't have the best defense. if you just come with one plan, like the way you played on the king side, it's much easier for black to deal only with one plan. So Spanish, the rule of pass is a little bit more complex, and that's why you got to take your game a little bit to the next level. Right, so you played 96 here.
No, he went d4.
D4.
Rook a8. So the point of this move is I want him to play d5 because I'm trying to go c takes d4. And if he plays d5, then my knight on a5, which is out of the game, suddenly isn't so bad because, like we said earlier, in closed positions, bad pieces can be remaneuvered, whereas in open positions, it's not so easy to do that. So he went d5, bishop to d7, and knight h2, which is a good move. And here, I actually made a very bad blunder. And this is a good lesson for everyone here, that before you make a forcing move, so move that, trades a piece, changes the position, makes a weakness, anything like that, always blunder check. Because sometimes you go too fast, like I just did, and you play the move h6, and suddenly you are losing a pawn.
Could you have played c4 and
Yeah,
c5?
that was my point. But I thought h2. But yeah, that was the so c4, knight b7, knight c5 is like the typical idea here. That's what Bela's showing to remaneuver the knight on a5. I thought that with h6 I'm getting an advantage, which is why I played it. And my calculation was take, knight eg4, and I thought I had the move bishop g5, and I simply forgot that knight h6 is a check. So this can happen to even strong players. This happens all the time. But I think the bigger point of this game is to realize that even when something goes wrong, like even if you blunder a pawn here, it's very far from the end of the game, and you have to fight back. So I took on g4, knight takes g4, and queen e7, trying to stabilize something on the king side. And this did come with a small trick. I'm threatening bishop g5, so he went knight takes f6, queen takes f6, queen h6, and queen f4, and this was my idea.
So what happened, guys? Both players had their own plans. White succeeded on the king side. He gained a pawn. Now we go into an end game where we're going to have a knight versus bishop. And Daniel is playing queen f4, even though he's a pawn down. Usually you don't want to trade when you're down a pawn. You want to keep the pieces on the board. But here, we are forcing white to trade queens because the white king cannot move anywhere. And now suddenly we have an end game, a knight versus a bishop, but black has a lot of compensation here. He has this beautiful square on e5 for the rooks. He can also move up.
And most importantly, look at the bishop on c2.
And this knight can go around the world and one day accomplish his dream on e5, where he could become an octopus knight and dominate the world, right? And do what he wants to do, and say what he wants to say, and dance around, right?
Can you go from knight from c4 to
I would love to, which is why Ibrahim played b3, which is correct. And this is a very good move. Here, and I explained this to Ibrahim already, white has a hidden idea here to go g3, and when I take the pawn, he wants to go f4. What's the point? The point is to cover the e5 square permanently, and play king g2, king takes g3, and my knight is just dead for the rest of the game, it can't go anywhere. So what I did here was I played king g7, which is a very deep move, and the idea is after g3, f takes g3, f4, I have g5 now. Show it. G5, fg, rook e5, and if h4, now because I played king g7, I have rook h8. And this only works because I played king g7.
So here Daniel is showing his class and his deep calculation, a deep understanding the position. So he realized that he has to take this player seriously, even down the pawn. He realized that I have to go deeper in the position and start playing real chess, right? Because one more tiny mistake and it's hard to win.
That's another thing when you guys are behind, like you're down a pawn or you have a worse position. Every move you make becomes more important. Like the cost of the move is higher. So if you make a bad move in a bad position, it's a lot more bad than making a bad move in a good position. So you need to be a lot more, focused and attentive, which is why I think I spent a couple minutes on king g7. But okay, b3, king g7. He went g3, take, and he took back. Now I'm very happy because now the e5 square is permanently mine. He has an outside pass pawn on the king side eventually with g4, h4, h5, but that takes a long time. And I have other weaknesses I can attack now, like the e4 pawn, and I can maneuver my knight. So here, even though white's probably still objectively better, I already kind of feel like I'm out of the weeds a little bit, and my position becomes more playable and maybe even interesting. I can play for a win if I get my knight to a good square. And here, okay, I played rook e5, which is another prophylactic move. One day, white might have an idea to play e5 himself, giving back the pawn, which looks kind of weird, but at least he opens up the bishop and he can push his pawn on d6. I don't even want to think about that. That's why I played rook e5.
Daniel is using restriction. The way this pawn is restricting the knight, now Daniel is using restriction in a different way, a higher level. Says, I'm never ever gonna let this pawn move, and you will always have this bad bishop on the board.
So I think he went king f2, which is also a little bit of an inaccuracy because now you undefend the h3 pawn, so I get rook h8. He goes h4. Now, what color pawns, does anyone know, what color squares should white put his pawns on in this type of position? Dark squares or light squares in general? Why dark?
Because this light square bishop, so it'll have more like activity.
And the other point is, let's say you put the pawns on the light squares, not only is the bishop becoming worse, my knight becomes better because I have more outposts, right? Like imagine if he has h3, g4, I can play my knight to g5 one day. So h4 is a good move. The downside of it is one day I might play g5, open up the king side when my knight gets to e5, and now I have an extra, side of the board that I can open up. So I think it was better for him to kind of sit tight with king on g2 and pawn on h3 and, wait around a little bit. But here, I think I played, I played knight d7, h4, sorry, h4, h4, yeah, knight b7. He went king f3. Now I set a little trap, rook h8. Who can tell me what the threat is? What do you guys think? One day, maybe f5, right? And imagine if he gets, imagine if, let's say, his rook is on d2 here, or, okay, not d2. Let's say his rook is on f2. One day I can play rook takes d5, maybe. So he went rook e2, which is a good move. Knight d8. Also, one other thing you guys should notice here, notice how all of white's pieces, including the bishop, are on light squares. That is usually a bad sign. Because when I do control the dark squares, I'm going to be able to attack all these pieces at once, right? If they're on different color complexes, like imagine if the rooks are on e3 and e1, I wouldn't be able to give forks. But here, one day, imagine my knight gets to d4, right? I can make a fork. So rook d2.
Daniel is talking about square strategy. He's gonna play on the dark squares, and white is gonna watch what Daniel is doing on the dark squares. Because you have a white square bishop, your pieces on the white squares. I'm dancing around with my knight and with my pieces on the dark squares. So this is really, really deep.
And just like you guys said, the pawn should go on the dark squares here. The pieces should also be on the dark squares because look at the rook on e2 and the king on f3. They're taking away diagonals from the bishop. Now, how's the bishop going to get to g4 one day, right? So the bishop is becoming worse and worse and worse. And because of that, my knight is becoming a lot better. So knight d8, he played rook a1, f6, creating the square on f7. Now, f6 is actually a strategically risky move. Why? Because the pawn f6 is undefended now by a piece. So if he really wanted to, which I think he should have tried, he could play exactly. He can shuffle the rooks to the f file without blundering rook takes d5. And I would have to babysit the f6 pawn. That's a risk I was willing to take because in return, my knight is coming to e5, which is more important. But these are kind of like the ups and downs of the move f6. So he went bishop b1, which is a very passive move. Ibrahim, what was the point, or you just didn't know what to do? That's okay. I went knight f7. He went. Rook, oh my god. Oh, bishop d3. Wait, no. We're missing a move. Let's. I think rook h1. a5. No. He went. Yeah. I think he went like. I think he shuffled. Let's just say bishop c2. Rook e7. Bishop d3. And now wait. No. I waited for c4. Just make a move for black. Play like rook b7. Rook on b8. Now c4. For white? Yeah, 95. Oh wait, oh my god. I'm losing my mind. Put the king on. I don't remember. Ibrahim, do you have the score sheet?
No, it didn't.
Do you remember what happened, Ibrahim?
I'm sorry.
Okay, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see what happened. Oh,
And now I remember everything.
okay. So these are the last. Okay, this is the knight on e5, and you have a rook on b4. So how did you get your rook on b4?
He went c4. I went like bc.
So this is what I set up because I seen this with bishop d3 and you played rook b8. I seen this.
Yeah. And then
And now
there's
let's
this
see.
nice
Let's see what he did.
So, yeah.
c4.
Now the knight comes
Knight
to
e5.
e5.
Oh, the king is on f4.
King's on. Oh yeah.
Yes, this wasn't with check. So knight e5 attacking the bishop.
You can put it here. So there's a moment I'll open the file.
I don't know how the king
Just I
e4.
got it.
Hmm?
I got it. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put king on f4. Let's just say like
So
here. So a5.
the rook was on h1.
Yeah, rook is on h1.
a5. King
Play like bishop. Yeah, play king f4. Rook e7.
e7.
Bishop. Just play bishop c2.
Bishop c2.
I'm waiting for c4. Rook b8.
b8.
Bishop b1.
Bishop
No,
d3
not yet.
and knight e5.
Bishop d. No, but it's fixed. It should be. Okay, yeah. Play bishop d3.
Knight e5.
No, but play rook e3. Okay, play rook e3 here. Rook b7.
Yes.
Yeah. c4. c4. 95. Bishop d3. There's something. bc. And rook b4. Oh wait, he went bishop takes c4. I'm sorry, he went bishop takes c4. There's a very pretty bit at the end. I don't want to miss it. Rook b4. And here, I think this is where he went rook c3. It's gonna lead to the same thing. I went like a4. He went king e3. Yeah, this is where it happens. King e3. Okay. f5. So f5. The point is e5. Knight takes c4, right? So here, is it h5? Wait, h5. Yeah, h5 here, I think. Yeah. Okay, yeah. This is guys. This is try to see till the end here, if you can.
Black turn to move. What you guys will play with black? Knight where?
So if knight g4, where, like, let's say the king moves backwards somewhere, you're not worried about it. You just take on e4. So the only line you really have to check up in knight g4 is if he comes up, right? Because that might be dangerous. So knight g4, you have to calculate king to f4.
So keep going, guys. Keep going.
But then king takes g5.
Is it knight g4 check king f4 and then like
King g5,
knight h6
h6 g6,
and then rook e4.
king h5. Don't stop. One more move and it's over.
Knight g4. King f4. Rook e4.
Notice how every move, guys, is like check, right? It's forcing. You don't want to give him room to do anything else.
Knight where?
Also, wait, guys, why knight h6? Why is knight h6 important?
So you
Because what is black, or what is white?
you wanna go rook g4.
I also don't want to allow him to go h6, because then he gets out. So that's very important. H6 g6, rook g4, check, king h5. We can find the last one.
Everybody can see?
No, I can't.
Wait, we could, wait, one by one. So guys, everyone in your heads, like knight g4, right? King goes to f4. Rook takes e4, king goes to g5.
Can everybody see until here?
Everyone's with us. Alright, so here, white has an idea to go h6 check and get out of the mating nest, right? Like if I play knight f6, for example, he's just gonna go h6. So that's why I went knight h6, to physically cover the h6 square, and to open rook g4, and to block the rook. He takes on g6. Yeah, we can go there. Wait, don't show this part, right? Knight h6. So if he does nothing, rook g4 is checkmate. So the only thing he can do is make a square for his king, which is why he takes on g6 to open the h5 square. I must give a check, or else white will play something like rook h4 to cover the g4 square. So I give a check. King h5, and now who can find the final touch?
Knight g8.
Very good. And what's the idea? Yeah. But see, if I had to calculate all of this when I played knight g4, because otherwise this is dangerous. He might get out and I'm down a bunch of pawns. So it's very important whenever you guys are going for like a direct line, like you're going for a checkmate or you're sacrificing something, always try to see until the very end of that line, or until things are clear. You don't want to just go really fast. And yeah, this is how the game ended.
This was a great game. Let's give a big hand to Daniel. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I see you guys next week. Push all the chairs back in.